Hello everyone, my name is Lizzie and today we're going to be discussing 5 language learning tips. Let me just see if I can add Lisa, who is going to discuss this live with me. So I can see some people are already writing some things in the chat, which is amazing. Thank you guys. Just to let you know, we will have a question and answer section at the end, so if you have any specific questions, don't worry, we will get to them. So also make sure you stick with us until the end, firstly because we've got a Q&A session, but also why else?
But Lizzie, I saw you for a split of a second, and I saw the color of your t-shirt. I think you're wearing black, aren't you?
Yes.
Can you confirm it? Yeah. So I'm also wearing black. Could this be a hint?
It might be a hint. It might be a hint, but we don't want to give it away fully.
Okay, so we'll leave the surprise for the end of the live. So stick with us. Should we get started with our tips then?
Let's get started. So I'm gonna go over our first tip. So we've got 5, and tip number 1 for you is to set yourself goals, but not just any type of goal. I want you to set SMART goals. So SMART goals, this stands for specific, measurable, ambitious, realistic, and time-bound. So it's an acronym. And I'm just going to quickly summarize each of these just so you get a better idea of how you can set effective goals when you're learning a language. So firstly, specific. This means to break down your goal into small tasks or small things that you want to achieve. So an example could be, instead of saying, I want to become fluent in French, you could say, I want to understand movies in French without English subtitles. Okay, so be a bit more specific, or make it a smaller thing you want to achieve rather than a more general, broad thing. Another example could be, instead of saying I want to improve my grammar, you could say I want to understand the subjunctive tense. Okay, so get more specific. The reason for this is your learning will be more focused and you'll feel more motivated, and also it will be easier for you to sort of understand when you've met this goal, and then you can move on to a different goal. So it'll help you progress as well. Yeah,
that makes sense. Very specific though. So I want to become, I want to understand movies in French without English subtitles. That's very specific. Yeah. That's smart.
And I definitely think I've made a mistake in the past when setting goals of not doing this. And yeah, it's definitely a more effective way to set goals. And yeah, that's the first one. So I don't want to ramble too much on each one because we've got all the other acronyms. So the next one.
I'm going to write down in the chat box the tip number 1. Okay.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you.
So to be specific. Go ahead. Sorry.
So the M in SMART goals is measurable. So this is the idea that it's much easier to measure your success or put a number on it if you make it measurable, and then it's much easier for you to then see if you've actually achieved that goal. So you could make it measurable by saying I want to understand 3 movies in French without English subtitles. And then you might move on to a different goal. So putting a number on it helps you to sort of tick it off almost and be like, right, I've done that. And maybe instead of saying I want to understand the subjunctive tense, you could say I will know I have understood the subjunctive tense when I'm able to produce 10 sentences using the subjunctive. Okay, so a number on it makes it much easier to kind of measure and see that you've achieved it.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. The next one is A, which is ambitious. So if you want to improve and learn, it's important for you to get out of your comfort zone. It's important to sort of set yourself a challenge, or your language level may stagnate, which means it might sort of stay the same and not move. And I don't know about you, Lisa, but I find this is quite common for students who are kind of at that B2 level, trying to get to C1,
Right.
or maybe upper intermediate, they want to get to advanced, and they find that they're
Right.
just progressing. And I think it's because sometimes it can be for different reasons, but one of the reasons can be that they're actually not pushing themselves as much as they could be, making it a bit more challenging for themselves. So it's good to be brave and not just set yourself goals that you know you can tick off and say, oh, I've achieved that, and actually try and go a little bit further than that and be a bit ambitious.
Definitely. Yeah, to level up in some ways.
Yeah, I think like often we're quite unkind to ourselves, and we actually can do more than we think we can. So keep that in mind. And then the next one is realistic, which is almost kind of like the opposite. It feels like it's a bit the opposite of this, but it's kind of, you know, be ambitious, but also take everything into account. So take into account your current level, your lifestyle, how much time you actually have to practice the language, your everyday responsibilities. So, you know, if you set yourself a really ambitious goal, but you actually have a really busy lifestyle, it doesn't mean you're not going to achieve that goal, but it might just take you a bit longer to get there. So just take that into account. And when you're putting the number or the timeline on it, make sure you consider that. Because if you then make it an unrealistic goal and you don't achieve it, it might actually demotivate you. So
they are actually, that's a contrast actually, to be ambitious and to be realistic. And sometimes some students have too much ambitious. They're too ambitious, right? They have too much ambition because they think, okay, I want to be able to learn this language in 3 months. Okay, but do you have time to dedicate yourself to learn this language? So yeah, it's kind of like balancing things out here, to be ambitious but realistic at the same time. Yeah.
It's so true. It's so true. And if you're unsure about, you know, if you're being too ambitious or if you're not being realistic, you can always ask someone to help you out with that, you know, a friend or someone, or even like a coach or teacher if you have one. They can
What we're
help.
here for.
Yeah, totally. Okay, and the last one I've got there is T, so it's time bound. So set yourself a time or a deadline to achieve the goal. So you're more likely to stick to it. So like you might say, I will learn 10 new phrases or phrasal verbs by the end of the week, or I will read 2 books in German by the end of the month. So you put in like a date that you're going to achieve the goal. And I find that usually short-term goals work best, because, you know, if it's too far away in the future, you might lose your. Whereas if it's like a month or a week, days, then it's like you can sort of stay focused much. So yeah. So guys, I don't know if you want to, thinking about these tips, if you want to try and think of some goals you might have for learning a language, you can write them in the chat box for us. That would be amazing. And Lisa, I don't know if you've ever had a SMART goal, or if you have one currently, if you're learning any languages at the moment.
Okay, I'm just going to make up an example because I've used the SMART goals in the past. I actually use it with my students. Every time I have like a long-term student, it's one of the first thing we do. We set our SMART goals together. I would help the person to set their goals. So say, for example, I'm going to spend the summer in Rome next year. So I would like to learn a little bit of Italian. I don't want to become fluent. It's not my goal yet. But then I could say, okay, I want to be able to understand 70% to 80% of a conversation in Italian. So that'd be something specific, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's amazing.
To do that, I will listen to a 20-minute podcast in Italian 3 times a week, and I would take a weekly conversation lesson with a native Italian teacher once a week. And I will try to get this done, well, to understand 80% of the conversation in Italian before my trip. So by the time I get to Rome.
Yeah, perfect. I think that covered all of it. So yeah, they were great examples.
Smart.
So smart. They were very smart. So yeah, if you guys, even if you want to at the end, take some time and have a little think about it, you might want to write your goals or even set yourself some SMART goals for the week. That could be a good idea. But we will move on to our second tip. Lisa, got for us?
Yeah, so my tip is a lot more simple than yours, Lizzie. Well, actually, I'm going to mention tip 2 and 3 at the same time, just because they go hand in hand. So tip 2 would be to use flashcards. I said it would be a lot more simple. Flashcards are a very simple tool, yet very effective. Let me show you what flashcards are. I've got these ones.
Oh, I
These are
love
kids'
those.
flashcards. They are so old. They are so last century. Well, maybe not last century because I used them with my kids and I taught English to young students with these. But basically, you have a picture or maybe you have an audio, and then here you have, on the other side, you have the word. Okay, so this is how you use flashcard. You would look at the image and then think of the word before turning the card over.
Yeah.
So flashcards, this is an old version because these are paper flashcards. Today we have a more modern version because we have the digital flashcards. So you can carry a stack of flashcards with you on your smartphone. It's a lot more easier today. So why would you want to incorporate flashcards when learning a language? Well, it's simple. You're learning a new language, therefore you have to learn new vocabulary. It's a source of input. Experts say that to reach a conversational level, you need 2,000 to 3,000 words. And to become proficient at a language, you should master 5,000 words or more than that. So imagine, that's a great amount of flashcards. And with our app at MosaLingua, it already offers some flashcards, but you can also create your own ones, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So why would you say that learning with flashcards is so efficient?
So because the learner does something that we call active recall, which means your memory is creating a connection with the word you're learning and its meaning. So when you look at the front side of a flashcard and think of the answer, you are engaging a mental faculty known as active recall. Okay, it's like your brain is digging out the information out of your memory instead of just like reading or recognizing it in a multiple choice quiz, right? So it's a lot more effort. And this helps you build your memory. And that is why flashcards are so effective. And also because it's a repetition strategy. And now I'm leading towards tip number 3, which
Okay.
is, the SRS model.
Oh yeah. So what I saw this, what does SRS stand for? Can you tell everyone?
Sure, Lizzie. So S means spaced, R means repetition, and the other S means system. So the spaced repetition system is a model which it's like an algorithm that determines how often to show you concepts. Okay, so you don't have to do any effort. Like the computer does it for you, the app does it for you. It will show you the flashcards, the words that you have more difficulty in learning. It will show you these cards more often so you can remember them better. And the ones that you find easier, then it will take a longer time. To show you, like it will schedule them for later review sessions. This way you won't waste time reviewing things that you already master.
Yeah.
So these 2 tips, using the flashcard along with our system, the SRS, with that you can learn twice as efficiently as any other study method. It will allow you to spend less time learning but still get maximum results. And millions of our app users can testify this. I get many students here at MosaLingua who say they use this method and they are amazed with it.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think definitely for me as well, I'm such a visual learner, and when I'm learning
Mm-hmm.
a language or even if it's something else, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
studying for something, flashcards has always been a really effective method for me. And yeah, like using it with the spaced repetition system, it just makes it even more effective. So those were,
Mm-hmm. And less boring as well. Sorry, I
yeah,
interrupt.
I just said those were really good tips.
Yeah. Do you have any more tip? Tip 4 is on you, actually.
Yes, I do. So I have another tip, which is a fun tip, maybe if it's something you like to do, which is to watch YouTube videos and Netflix, in the language you're learning.
Nice.
Which I'm gonna explain how you could maybe do this a little bit more effectively. So a great way to improve your listening skills and learn new vocabulary is by doing this. So watching YouTube videos, watching Netflix. It's fun, it's interesting, it's easy to incorporate into your daily life, and you can also find topics that interest you, and then it'll make it much more motivating. But it is important to think about whether you're doing active or passive learning or listening when you're doing this.
Can you explain what the difference is?
Yeah,
from like active and passive listening, learning. Learning.
So we've got two types. So we've got passive learning or passive listening, and this would be when someone else is producing the language and you're listening or watching, and your brain is absorbing it. So the information or the vocabulary is just like flowing over you. It doesn't require much focus. So this could be just sticking a film on Netflix and watching it, listening to the radio while you're doing your cleaning. I do that a lot. Or listening to a podcast while you're walking or you're running outside. And all of these things are absolutely okay. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but it is less effective than a more active way, because you're not going to learn as much vocabulary, and you're probably less likely to retain the vocabulary that you do learn or that you do hear. So the other way is active. So if you want to listen actively, and you want to make sure your brains are really focusing and taking in new information, then we need a little bit of a different approach. So an example of active could be listening to a podcast, but then you're writing down the new vocabulary, or you're transcribing word for word what you hear, or maybe you watch a film or a YouTube video, and you put the subtitles on in the target language, and then you translate any new words or phrases that you come across, and then memorize the new words. So yeah, and
create a flashcard to do that. Add it into your flashcard,
and then do that and do the spaced repetition system, and you've got all the
exactly.
all and actually MosaLingua, we have at MosaLingua, we actually have a great tool for you to do this. I don't know if you've seen it.
Tell us about this. Tell. I think you should mention this. Can you tell us about it?
So it's called Mosa Discovery, and it's a web extension. You can add it to Chrome or Firefox. And how it works is, I'll give you an example. So say I am wanting to learn Spanish, and I'm going to learn it by watching a YouTube video. So I put on a YouTube video in Spanish, and I have Spanish subtitles. And then what the extension does is, which is Mosa Discovery, is if I click on a word or a phrase on the subtitles, it will directly translate that for me. Just by clicking it, it will translate that for me. And then after that, it will give me the option to add it as a flashcard. So create a flashcard and add it to my MosaLingua app, and I can just access that anytime. It's all saved there. So it's like a really efficient way to sort of get that new vocabulary. It's all there for you. You can come back to it later. So I love it. Yeah, I think it's great.
It's awesome. It is. So that would be active learning as well, using the Mosa Discovery
method as well. It's a great way to sort of listen actively, so improve your listening skills, improve your vocabulary. And this tool can also be used, so I mentioned using it with Netflix, with YouTube. It can also be used with like anything on your browser. So also if you're like reading a news article or a blog, you can also translate words or phrases in there as well. So it's very versatile, which is great.
Nice, awesome. I'm actually going to talk about another tool that we have at MosaLingua, and it's actually tip number 5. Can I move on, or did you finish?
Oh no, I can't see my facial expressions. I keep forgetting that, and I'm
just watching myself. It's really annoying. But I'm glad that the people can see your beautiful face. So yeah, tip number 5, we have another tool called MosaChat AI. AI, we all know what it means now, artificial intelligence. And my tip is to use it to speak So to put your conversation skill into practice right from the start when you're learning a language. Or if you've been learning a language, say, since 6 months now, and you're still not speaking, then you need to start doing it. Do you ever get students sometimes, Lizzie, that tell you, especially adult students or teenagers, that tell you, oh, I can understand English really well, I can read it, I can write it, my grammar's great, but I can't speak.
Oh, totally. Also, like
Right?
adults who I think at school they did a lot of sort of grammar and reading and writing, and they never really
Yeah.
speaking. So they have amazing grammar, but they actually like they can write and they can understand, but when it comes to speaking, they really struggle.
Yeah, exactly. And like to me, I think speaking is one of the most important skills. Like I like to speak. Like, I would feel very frustrated if I knew a language, but I couldn't speak it, you know? So yeah, my tip is to start speaking from day one. So our main goal with the MosaChat AI is to give you 24/7 access to a personal language tutor. So at any time of the day or night, you can chat or speak with our tutor. You can simulate common situations. You can talk about anything you want. And the tutor will respond to you in real time. How cool is that?
It's so cool. Do you know what though? Like it's like having a real teacher. Like it's so I'm just still so like amazed by AI. Like I'm like, but it's not a
I
real
know.
person, but it feels like
I know. Crazy. I feel
yeah,
like it's going to steal my job in the future.
stealing our
Should I
job.
be worried?
But I know it is great, and it's great as well. I've had students in the past who, you know, maybe they can't access like, you know, a lesson with a teacher for certain reasons,
Mhm.
and it's kind of like another great option. It's like the
Yeah.
next option for them, or better,
Mhm.
because for some people maybe, you know, it's available 24/7, so
Mhm.
that might suit you better. So yeah, no, it's great.
I think it's great for shy students as well, you know, because I even get students that are still shy with me, you know, to speak
Mm.
because I'm a real person, even if it's online. So maybe they can get practicing, you know, with with artificial intelligence, so they
Yeah.
can, you know, start getting fluent and more confident in speaking in English. And the thing is with MosaChat AI, the cool thing is that it provides you corrections. And it even gives you a clear explanation. Say if you make a grammar mistake, okay, it will explain you why it's wrong.
Hmm.
And with MosaLingua, we have an option where it tells you, or do you want to create a flashcard to remind you about this because you're producing this mistake?
Hmm.
So why don't you create flashcards? That's really cool. So you can use it to prepare job interview, for example. You can use it, say you're traveling somewhere to an English speaking country. Well, not only English. But say you're traveling and you want to practice your vocabulary, you know, so you can use it for many different
Yeah.
occasions.
And
Yeah.
what you were saying then about how, you know, you might use it to get ready to chat to a teacher, it kind of gave me another thought of like, even if you do have a language teacher, maybe you have like a work presentation
Yeah.
day, and you know, you can organize a lesson with your teacher, so you could use MosaChat AI to just get some practice in, to just, you know, help you feel more confident so you're thinking in that language.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's just there's so many different ways
Yeah.
that it can be helpful. Yeah.
It's amazing. It actually still blows my mind, you know, as how amazing it is.
So
Yeah.
I
So
think
that was my last, sorry.
we've done all our tips. I think that's what you were about to say.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's all of them.
Yeah.
I,
I'll quickly summarize what they were, because in case some people are just joining now. If you are only
yeah,
joining now, don't worry. I will make sure I post this. That's good, because that's reminding.
yeah,
I post this afterwards, so you'll be able to watch it from the beginning.
yeah.
Don't stress. But tip number one was setting SMART goals. Um, Lisa, what was tip two and three? They
Tip
were your
number two, use flashcards, but not these ones. These are last century's flashcards. Use flashcards and also make the most of the SRS model. That's the spaced repetition system.
yeah.
So that's tip number two and three. Tip number four.
Tip number four was to watch Netflix and YouTube videos in your target language, but also make sure you're doing this in quite an active way, so you're learning
Mhm.
new vocabulary while you do this, and really listening.
Yeah, and tip number 5 is to start speaking from day one. Start putting your conversation skills into practice from day one, and use MosaChat AI for this. It's the perfect tool.